This was posted a couple of days on the Inner Vision YouTube channel, which actually has a lot of really interesting and freaky 10-minute on average breakdowns of topics just like this. And here was a 10-minute video. I have it bookmarked to around the 4-minute, 15-second mark of Elon Musk in 2021 giving his last warning about where it's all going. And he talks about universal basic income because that is, of course, where this is all going. I already said that. Listen to this.
These are not things that I think that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. And since if my assessment is correct and they probably will happen, then we need to say, what are we going to do about it? And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary. Now, the output of goods and services will be extremely high. So with automation, there will come abundance. There will be almost everything will get very cheap. I think the biggest. I think we'll just end up doing a universal basic income. It's going to be necessary. The harder challenge, much harder challenge, is how do people then have meaning? Like a lot of people, they derive their meaning from their employment. So if you don't have, if you're not needed, if there's not a need for your labor, how do you? What's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Do you feel useless? That's a much harder problem to deal with. And then how do we ensure that the future is going to be the future that we want, that we still like? No, I mean, I do think that there's a potential path here which is, and we're really getting into science fiction or sort of advanced science stuff.
So, yeah, and that is the big question. Where do you get meaning from? Because look at all the people who are not working right now because they have been incentivized to stay home. There are help wanted signs all over the place over here in New York. Help wanted, all positions available, starting immediately. Whatever the hell it is, you can get a job around here, especially if it's in restaurants or whatever. Everybody's looking for work. But as I said a couple of weeks ago when I just took a shot in the dark to see if anybody in the tri-state area knew how to make pizza, because a friend of mine who owns a pizzeria was looking to bring on another pizza guy so that they wouldn't be so overburdened because they're pumping out a lot of sales over there, but they only have 2 pizza makers, and the reason is nobody wants to work anymore. Used to be all you have to put out is a Facebook post, and you're fighting people off who know how to spin dough and all that stuff, and it's just not the case anymore because you're getting more money to stay home. And whereas you're getting people, I saw somewhere through all the news I was reading today too, that 3 out of 4 people that have been surveyed by one company or another have said that they would like to stay home to work from home forever. They don't want to ever return to the office anymore. Well, let me tell you something. There's something dejecting about even just working from home every day. If I didn't leave the house at least at 5:30 or so to get to the studio and start preparing things over here, to go for a short drive, to have the windows down, to have a change of scenery, I'd go fucking nuts. In fact, the week that the computer, the coolant system on this computer over here, it was April, early April of 2020. It was around my birthday. Remember, my birthday episode was canceled, and I had to take a week off and do the show from home. Well, that week that I did it from home was the most disorienting 5 days of my life because I don't think I left my street. Wake up, have your breakfast, you start working, maybe and then, of course, at the end of the day, you just go from one room to the other to do the show. I remember after a couple of days just like going out onto the back porch or something like that and really feeling like I was walking out onto the surface of the moon. Everything was just so weird. So weird. And this is what they're doing. It's going to push people into this really disillusioned state of being. So yeah, you can push fake money into people's wallets and social credits into people's wallets if you're going to start creating an abundance of product, especially if there's going to be less people on the earth. But other than that, where do you get meaning in your life? And bringing in this universal basic income too, which is what the Great Reset is all about, and what was going to be a natural segue into my talk with Timothy Alberino tonight anyway, but we're going to do that for another night. Resetting everything is really the case. You're resetting every facet of humanity, right down to the basics. And that, of course, is biological reality of our existence. The biological reality of our existence. Whereas they're bringing in people, they're bringing in robotic technology for the next generation to start doing work that we don't want to do. I mean, we're seeing a decrease in population. Once they overwhelm us, there's going to be a decrease across the board all around. But you have those like Klaus Schwab saying that there is going to be a very specific and intimate marriage between human beings and this cybernetic life. Everything's being reset. So we got the biological reality of our existence going to reset, and then that's pretty much going to make the case that everything that we have learned about ourselves, everything we've learned about ourselves over however many thousands of years, people are going to make the case that all of that learning and all of that, at least social evolution and technological evolution and how we learned about our gut biome and how we can eat food and how to prepare food, everything that we, through trial and error, had learned about ourselves and our relationship to the environment around us, the food that we harvest, the animals that we commune with, everything. People out there are going to say, oh, well, that was just a waiting game until there was enough technology available in the hands of visionaries like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab, where we can finally reach our maximum potential. Our maximum potential as non-thinking, fungus-eating, drug addict, cybernetic slaves. Especially the non-thinking thing. That ties right into what Zach Voorhees and his friend that we've talked about a lot, Dr. Robert Epstein, have talked about with search engine manipulation, what big information companies like Google are really doing to mankind by limiting and manipulating the kind of information that's available to them and how they're able to access it. And as I've said many times before, if you think that people are zonked out now from the drugs that they're taking on the regular, I mean, just always remember that this country, the United States, we consume the lion's share of antipsychotic, SSRI, antidepressant drugs, everything. Those are just the ones that affect the mind. Even if you don't smoke marijuana, for anybody to think that that shit should be illegal, with the mind-altering drugs that people are prescribed by doctors every day and just swallow like they're M&Ms. I mean, we've got that going on. We know that there's fluoride in the water. We saw the studies a couple of years ago that finally came out and said that fluoride lowers IQ, and we are seeing IQ being lowered. There's so many things we're being inundated with just at an environmental level. And then on top of that, when you dull people's minds out and you just make those sharp adaptive brains into a little bit more of a dull instrument, and then you get them addicted to technology or any other kind of physical stimulus, and you have them in your hand. Can you imagine what happens to the future of a species when that has been implanted into your brain? Whenever you have even a silly little thought, it's fact-checked by Wikipedia, like every fucking episode of this show and other shows of people that we listen to on YouTube. Everything is fact-checked. Something pops up and there's Snopes. There's PolitiFact. There's Wikipedia. What do you think that's going to do to the average person? It's the end of humanity. There's no freedom in that. There's barely freedom right now. People are really struggling to understand what's going on with them.